to the spotlight, it got that much bigger and that much brighter on the WNBA, and I'm really glad that she mentions it here. It's just Caitlin Clark. It's always been just Caitlin Clark. Yes, there are other great young players who have come into this league, but it has truly been the Caitlin Clark.
The whole timeline of how Caitlin Clark turned the WNBA from a failing league into a multi-billion-dollar media phenomenon was just put out by Rachel Dida. She dissected the data, the transactions, and the indisputable evidence that one player made all the difference. Just the facts of who really saved women's basketball and why some people still deny it. No sugarcoating, no political correctness. Without Caitlin Clark joining the league in 2024, do you believe the WNBA would have been able to land the $2.2 billion media agreement, or would they have done so in the end? Be truthful when posting comments.
To talk about this ESPN article, and it's entitled WNBA CBA Negotiations at an Impasse, 11 Things That Got Us to This Point. And this was written by Alexa Filippo. She has been covering all things WNBA relentlessly, but I've seen a lot of discourse about a couple of things in this article, so I simply wanted to go over it with you guys.
In a recent video, Rachel Dida dissected an ESPN piece by Alexa Filippi regarding the WNBA's CBA negotiations. The indisputable fact that everyone has been dancing for 2 years is hidden within that period. The WNBA was saved by Caitlin Clark, didn't contribute to saving or aid. Since the facts are so harsh for anyone still attempting to claim that this was a group effort or a natural development, let's go over the time frame that Dida gave out.
Here. Well, it started in January 2020. The WNBA and the WNBPA agreed to a groundbreaking CBA. And they announced this on January 14th, 2020, that they'd agreed to a groundbreaking and landmark collective bargaining agreement. Now, you see what the groundbreaking CBA was when Caitlin Clark is on a $70,000 per year deal. That at the time was groundbreaking for these players. So just to put that into perspective as the kind of money that they are talking about right now, average salaries around $500K to max salaries over $1 million. It was groundbreaking for them when a max salary was over $200,000. So
the WNBA and WNBPA reached what they described as a historic and groundbreaking collective bargaining agreement in January 2020. Do you know what made it revolutionary? Maximum pay of more than $200,000, paying your finest players just a little bit more than a respectable corporate position was what was considered revolutionary in 2020. In comparison, Caitlin Clark's rookie deal was for $76,000 annually. That was seen as typical under the revolutionary 2020 CBA. Players are already discussing maximum incomes of over $1 million and average earnings of roughly $500,000. The entire financial landscape underwent a significant change in just 6 years. Here's the problem, though. During the majority of those 6 years, the league's growth was moderate and steady. The kind of growth that is pleasant but doesn't significantly alter the sustainability or business model.
In just 6 years. But I did want to point this out because prioritization, a new system requiring players to put the WNBA first ahead of overseas commitments, was also introduced. And this is something that I predict, maybe not this CBA, but probably the next one, if the salaries continue to rise, if they get that revenue split that they're asking for or something even close to that, it's going to be more than prioritization. It's going to be exclusivity.
Dida explained that in 2020, there were no alternative leagues like Unrivaled, no Athletes Unlimited, and no backup initiatives such as Project B in development. At that time, players had no choice but to compete overseas during the off-season and then return for the WNBA schedule, all while coping with poor travel standards and practicing inside 24-hour fitness gyms because franchises lacked proper training facilities. The 2020 bubble season didn't come close to matching the NBA's setup, as the housing conditions were disappointing and the food arrangements were far from satisfactory. Videos that spread online highlighted the clear disparity in how NBA and WNBA athletes were accommodated and treated. That experience created underlying strain between the players and Commissioner Cathy Engelbert, tension that would resurface in later years. Then in February 2022, the WNBA announced it had secured $75 million in new investment capital, a development that added more layers to the story and led Dida to admit she may have been overly critical of Cathy Engelbert in the past.
2022. So this was when the capital raise was announced. A capital raise featuring new investors and existing WNBA and NBA owners brought in $75 million that was used to supercharge the WNBA's business growth, including better marketing and more innovation. And this is when we talk about the split, you guys, and why it's very hard for players to get more of a revenue share than what they're asking for. 42% of the WNBA is owned by the WNBA, 42% is owned by the NBA.
Following that capital raise, the ownership breakdown is shown here. The NBA owns 42%, the WNBA owns 42%, and an investor group owns 16%. Because it makes revenue sharing talks more difficult, Angelbert's sale of a 16% stock share has become contentious. Players now desire a larger share of the pie, but the WNBA and its players are not the only parties sharing that pie.
Matthew Engelbert. This capital raise might have been exactly what the W needed at the time.
But after reflecting, Demita came to the following realization. In 2022, the WNBA was struggling. Without the financial infusion for improved marketing and innovation, the league might not have been able to survive without that capital raising. Would groups have disbanded? Had the league been forced to sign a contract?
The NBA, and I think that that's an okay thing. Like, we should be able to say this aloud, because if now they don't need the NBA, or in the next 5 years they won't need the NBA, then you have this runway to try to
Demita is not entirely incorrect. In retrospect, it's simple to criticize choices made when the league is doing well, but at the time, Engelbert may have been making the difficult choices required to guarantee the WNBA alive long enough to reap the rewards of what was ahead. And Caitlin Clark was on the way. Everything changed in an instant when Caitlin Clark was selected in the WNBA draft in April 2024. Not gradually, not over a number of seasons, nor all at once. Demita's analogy is flawless. From a little cat laser pointer, the WNBA spotlight was replaced by one of those enormous helicopter searchlights they use to track out criminals. That's how significant the change was.
Spotlight. It got that much bigger and that much brighter on the WNBA, and I'm really glad that she mentions it here. It's just Caitlin Clark. It's always been just Caitlin Clark. Yes, there are other great young players who have come into this league, but it has truly been the Caitlin Clark effect. Even if you look at the viewership for Iowa this year, the viewership for Iowa in the past couple years, even after Caitlin Clark departed, there are still people that are tuned into Iowa when Iowa was never at the top of the viewership numbers. It's because of Caitlin Clark. When she came into the league, the Indiana Fever were third last in attendance. And then when Caitlin Clark came into the league, they're immediately number one in attendance for the next 2 seasons.
Now let's break down the numbers, because this is where the claim that Caitlin Clark rescued the WNBA starts to look hard to dispute. Before Clark joined the Indiana Fever, the team ranked third from the bottom in attendance. In the very season she was drafted, they surged straight to first place in league attendance and stayed there. That wasn't a slow, steady climb. It was an instant and dramatic turnaround sparked by a single player. In contrast, when Angel re-entered the league, the Chicago Sky were already sitting among the top 3 teams in attendance the year prior. After she arrived, however, the Sky slipped into the bottom 5 in attendance rankings. That's not meant to diminish Ree's ability. She's skilled and has a loyal following, but her addition didn't lead to a noticeable spike in ticket sales or crowd turnout. Demita also highlights that Iowa's television ratings remained strong even after Clark departed for the WNBA, showing that viewers who initially tuned in because of Clark continued watching the program once she was gone. That kind of sustained interest signals that she generated truly new fans, rather than simply redirecting attention from an already existing audience. The 2024 WNBA campaign delivered record-breaking figures across attendance, television ratings, and nearly every major performance indicator. The championship series between the Liberty and the Lynx became the most watched WNBA finals in 25 years. While both teams showcased outstanding basketball, it's important to acknowledge what initially drew casual viewers to the league that season: Caitlin Clark. Demita points out that from 2020 through 2024, the WNBA had been progressing, but the rise was gradual and steady rather than explosive. Once Clark arrived, however, the trend line didn't just climb, it shot straight upward. That kind of spike isn't typical growth. It reflects the impact of a single individual reshaping the league's direction. The financial evidence strengthens that argument. In July 2024, the WNBA finalized an 11-year media rights agreement worth $2.2 billion, approximately $200 million annually, with Disney, Amazon Prime, and NBC Universal. The deal was completed only months after Clark was drafted. Coincidence? Unlikely. Broadcast networks were tracking the surge in ratings throughout Clark's rookie year, witnessing packed arenas, soaring social media interaction, and a wave of casual sports fans suddenly tuning in to women's basketball. Media executives committed $2.2 billion because they were confident the surge in interest would sustain itself. Their investment reflected a belief that Caitlin Clark had significantly elevated the overall market value of WNBA broadcasting rights. Without that landmark agreement, the current collective bargaining negotiations would likely look very different. Players would not be pushing for substantial revenue sharing or dramatic salary increases if the league didn't have meaningful new income to distribute. The economic base that makes those demands even feasible stems directly from the media rights contract, and that contract materialized in the wake of Clark's impact. Demita also raises a compelling question about what comes next, particularly regarding prioritization policies and the possibility of exclusivity provisions. At present, WNBA athletes are allowed to compete overseas during the off-season, though league rules require them to prioritize WNBA commitments when scheduling conflicts arise. If compensation continues to grow and players secure anything close to the revenue split they are seeking, Demita anticipates that the next CBA could introduce stricter exclusivity terms, potentially barring players from participating in overseas leagues altogether, much like NBA players who are typically bound exclusively to the NBA. That scenario is only realistic if WNBA salaries rise to a level where players no longer depend on overseas contracts to earn a stable income. Those kinds of pay increases, however, can only happen if league revenues keep expanding. And sustained revenue expansion relies on preserving and growing the fan base that Caitlin Clark helped generate. In the end, the conversation repeatedly traces back to the influence of one player. Demita also highlights the facility's arms race that began in April 2023 when the Las Vegas Aces revealed their 64,000 square foot practice complex. Prior to 2023, some teams were still holding workouts at YMCA centers and standard commercial gyms. Now, franchises are competing to develop the most advanced training environments possible. The Indiana Fever are reportedly investing $100 million into a new facility, while the Chicago Sky and Dallas Wings are constructing upgraded spaces of their own. Owners are making these financial commitments because they now view the WNBA as a viable and potentially profitable enterprise. That confidence stems from the surge in audience interest associated with Caitlin Clark's arrival. Demita also references the tension between players and Commissioner Kathy Engelbert that flared up just before the 2024 finals.